Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is your ultimate Easter egg guide for Ashes of the Damned solo. However, you can still do this entire main quest either by yourself or with multiple people. Matter of fact, this is one of the few zombies maps that the Easter egg is significantly easier if you are playing co-op versus by yourself. This is one of the more difficult solo maps to date, and I will say that this video is meant for you to be able to understand how to quickly, easily solve and repeat the Easter egg so that you can go back and try this boss fight again, because it is an absolute powerhouse and you probably will not beat this on the first try. So first things first, as far as setup and loadout goes, I'm going to recommend maybe some kind of ranged weapon, although you can use a shotgun as well. And the gobblegums, I just go all out. Bring your perkaholics in, bring your hidden powers, bring basically any of these ultra gobblegums that you do have that will allow you to set up early. There's a couple situations where some other gobblegum might help, but I will note those otherwise when it's necessary. It's also very important to know that there are some pieces of equipment that you have to use for the Easter egg that, unless you're a certain level, you won't be able to craft, but all of the mandatory ones you can find within the game, and I will show you the locations for these. And I'm also going to show you a very optimized route in the early game to get a lot of stuff done so that you can free up the later rounds for the more challenging puzzles. So as soon as you begin your game, you don't need to do anything too out of the ordinary other than use your gobblegum that you may or may not have and just kind of get yourself set up. The first couple of rounds, you're just going to be maybe gathering some points and then also entering this building, grabbing the head from Ted down here on the floor, placing it on Old Tessie, and then from here, instead of going straight to the farm, I'm actually going to recommend that you take a right instead, go through the monolith forest, and then come out at Blackwater Lake. Inside the cabin here, open up the door and then go in the kitchen where you can find this item and pick this up. This should be a jar of spores. And then while you're here, go ahead and shoot these things off and then turn on the power at the cabin. Once you've done that, take Old Tessie back around to where we came from and then go back towards spawn, and this time we're going to go the other way and the other direction towards the farm. When you get here, you're going to do the exact same thing you did at farm, as in turning on the power, shoot off these orange spores, activate the switch, flip it on. Now, before you leave the farm, head back down to the entrance and you'll see this dead cow on the ground near this gate. Place the jar of spores that we got from Blackwater on the cow and it will start to grow. Don't worry about these for a couple of rounds, but we'll come back a little bit later. From here, just take Old Tessie past the boat and then over to Ashwood, and you need to do the same thing once again that you did at farm and at Blackwater. You need to take yourself upstairs, use the zip line, go on the bridge, remove the spores, flip the power switch, and then this should give you access to the garage, and also the crafting table will give you access to putting Pack-a-Punch on Old Tessie. Once you have this, not only can you upgrade your gun, but now you have the ability to use your boost speed inside the truck, and this is really nice for later on. What you also should do is come over to this room right next to Vulturade, open up this door, and make sure that you acknowledge Klaus, right? Like, he'll start to give you some dialogue, go up to his jail cell, interact with it. Once he starts talking, this is part one of a step that we'll come back around to later, but once Klaus is sort of activated here in this jail cell, if you have Wisp Tea at this point, the brand new perk, hang around in this room until you can get it to activate. It does not matter what augments or what color the mask is, just get Wisp Tea to activate in here, and it should go inside the mirror. Now, if you don't currently have Wisp Tea, you can either come back later or you can do a small little quest in order to get it. But once you have Wisp Tea, activate the mirror, and then we're going to get back in Old Tessie and start to drive around the map. We're going to start going left, and this is going to take us to the Cosmodrome facility area. And once we get through here, we're just going to go straight through. We're not really going to stop, just open up the doors, and then we're going to continue all the way down the hill until we reach the 115 diner. When you're here, there's a few things you can actually do. So the item that you need is not going to spawn until the following round when you arrive. So if you get here on round 3, make sure to end the round, and then the thing you need should be able to spawn on round 4, for example. And it should be the round next from when you've opened the diner, so make sure that you buy the door and you're hanging out inside here. Eventually, once you kill enough zombies, there will be a specific one in an apron that will be sort of like a worker at this diner and will drop you a freezer key. You can pick this item up and take it over to the back freezer here near the door, and that should open up, revealing an abomination carcass. Pick that item up, and we're going to head back to Ashwood to place this on Oltesi. This will give you the ability to do an abomination shock beam out of the front. And so you can take this shock beam immediately right over here and enter this section to where you should see this purple plant. Now, there's a ton of these around the map, but you only need just one. You can shock this plant to reveal an item that we need for the serum. So just make sure you pick that up, and then once you have it in your inventory, you're good to go. The next thing we're going to do is take our upgraded Tezzy back to spawn, but considering now you have the entire map open and you've interacted with Klaus at least once, when you enter this area, you should see this Project Janus crate open, revealing an Uber Klaus. Yes, the enemies from the Reckoning. Once you kill this thing, you can shoot off its shoulder pad and then destroy the core inside. This enemy shouldn't be too hard to kill for you, and you can get it pretty early, so it's not too big of a deal. It should drop a piece that is a stabilizer chip, and we can pick that up and then take that chip back over to Klaus in this area. So from here, you should be able to craft stun grenades. I don't believe they have like a level cap you need to craft them at. As long as you're like at least level 10, you should be able to do this, but we will need stun grenades, and a few can be found around Ashwood if you don't have any already, or you can craft them over here. But once Klaus is rebooting, once you've placed the stabilizer chip inside of his cell, let's get about 2 or 3, maybe 4 stun grenades, but we're going to come back over to his room and then just toss them on the ground so that it bounces into his cell, and just toss a couple of them. Should only take about 2 or 3, just whatever you have, and you'll know you've done it right if you see this sort of like animation around him to where he looks like he is stun locked, and that will be good to go. When you pass the round and he reboots, then he'll come out of his cell, and what you should do immediately as he begins to reboot and leave the cell is head over to the Cosmodrome using this fast travel. Once you take control of Klaus, and you can see when you have control of him, when your HUD on the bottom right switches to his face, you want to go and activate Klaus using your tactical grenade button in front of this machine. This will, force him to come over to this location and then activate this machine. As soon as that happens, you can interact with it, and it should begin a scanning process. All you need to do if you're playing solo, or whoever the person activated it in your game, if you're playing co-op, is stand inside the circle of this scanner for 1 minute, and don't leave the circle. As soon as it's done, it will be complete, and then from here, it will unlock this empty canister. Go ahead and grab the empty ether barrel and then take it upstairs, and you won't be able to sprint in this time, so keep that in mind. And do not take any jump pads either, as it will leave the barrel behind. Get into Oltesi because that's pretty much your only option, and if you're doing this right, you should see the canister on the back here. Take it over to Ashwood Bridge and then place it inside this generator to where we turned on the power, and then you're going to go through a process of refining the energy extraction. This is very quick, and the zombies don't attack it. They're only going for you, so you really can't fail this. You just need to activate it, and then you'll get 1 minute and 45 seconds to take the ether canister to another location. Do not combat roll off of this bridge like I did, otherwise it drops the canister. Make sure you take the zip lines down and then bring Oltesi specifically to the next location over at Blackwater Lake. As there is a power generator here, we're going to go ahead and do the exact same thing. Place the ether barrel in, it will reset your timer, it will, extract that energy once more, and then your third and final one, you guessed it, is going to be located back at the farm. So go ahead and go through Blackwater Lake into the Monolith Forest, around Janus Towers, and then finally getting very close to the farm for your third and final location. Now, again, the rules are going to be the same after you get this canister out, but the next location you need to get to is really not too far away at all. Just wait out the time, and once you've done that, we're going to take that empty ether barrel downstairs inside the farm. This is a crucial piece for getting the Wonder Weapon quest and is actually sort of step 1 of this entire process. Bring the ether canister down here and then place it inside the cube. Now, it should sort of light up and you should see that these 3 green rings around it. If you take any jump pads towards farm, you should see a set of 3 symbols. Now, as you can see in my game, these are my 3 symbols. They could be a little bit different for you, but you only need to pay attention to these 3, and then you need to input them on the cube. Now, you don't need to worry about what order, because basically each face of the cube will give you a different selection, and you just need to choose the right one that matches. So, for example, you can see this key-looking symbol. I'm going to interact with this face of the cube, and that is going to be an option, so I know that's one. And then this matches my other, and then this final one I have to flip through, and it matches my last symbol. And then you can confirm that and input it on the red eyeball that's sticking out. This will initiate a small ritual using the Necrofluid Gauntlet, which is this map's wonder weapon. You will be locked within this green ring, so keep that in mind, but what you need to do with the wonder weapon is go and shoot all of these green orbs around the room with the needle part of the weapon, and then recall it using the reload button. And once that ritual is done, you can come back outside and wait for your spores to grow if they haven't done already. If they're fully formed and you can pick them up, great, but if not, we're going to go over to this barn and throw a tomahawk at this ankle on this zombie. If you don't have a tomahawk, there is a free one inside of the diner, and then we need to burn the foot as well, and if you don't have a Molotov, there's a free one at Ashwood. But you're going to burn the foot just as I did right here, and then pick up what comes out of it, which is the human bones. Next, what we're going to do is, obviously grab our Widow's Lantern, which is our fully grown fungus, and then if you get lucky at this time and you also get a Ravager round, you can also use the trap to get the Ravager eyes. Now, you don't have to do this on a Ravager round specifically, but any Ravager will do. Probably the first one that dies in that trap will give you your piece. And then the final serum part is pretty tricky to get, but you need to wait till round 16 for a Zursa to spawn in and use the beam attack from Old Tessie to kill it and eliminate it, and then that should reveal your last and final serum part, which is the mysterious limb. You can do this on normal Zursas or even spirit bears in the other areas, but either way, once you got that mysterious limb, we need to get the chalk to reveal a cipher that we're about to solve, and in order to get this chalk, we need to walk up to the mirror that we've been using this whole time, where that's been revealed to show this cube, and then melee it with the wonder weapon. This mist should come out of it, and then you should get the powder of the Forgotten, and that should be all of your serum parts, but you may not need to use the bear one if you get really lucky, but I'll explain how this works. Go back to the Cosmodrome and then open up Yuri's lab, and all of your, ingredients should be put down. Interact with the white powder, and it should reveal this code on the wall. This is Pigpen Cipher. This shows you the certain chemicals that you need to put into the serum. Now, here's the cheat sheet, and what you can see is that the first letter or first character of each word determines your ingredient. So right now, mine were just 1, 2, 3 according to this cheat sheet. You can input that and then begin the blood ritual. Yours code obviously could be very different, but it should still correspond to the ingredients on the table. Inside the blood ritual, when you begin this, you'll notice that you have significantly less than normal health, but you can use the wonder weapon to not only recall the needles to, kill zombies, but it will also start to slowly heal you as well, keeping you alive. Do not die in this or the ritual will fail. It takes a lot longer in co-op than it does solo, and it shouldn't be too bad. This corner is a nice spot to be because they cannot spawn from behind you, but once that's all done, the room will fill with fog, and then the map should transform, knowing that you've done this correctly. If you step outside, the satellite should be going crazy, and that's how you know you're on the right track. What we're going to need to do next is collect 3 different very hidden keys, and collecting each key requires you to use the wonder weapon, shoot a needle at said key, and then recall the needle back to you to pull it back down using your left trigger. This can be a very tricky process because spotting them is a little bit hard and targeting them can be a bit of a challenge, but I'm going to show you where all of the key locations are, and they should look like this. When you pick up the key, you'll turn yellow, and bear in mind they each come with a downside, but the first key that can be found in the grounded ship has 3 locations. The first spot that it can spawn is behind these 2 barrels underneath the ship. It's pretty tricky. The second location is behind these barriers on top of the shelf, and then the third location is right next to it in the corner of this little cargo door. Very tricky to spot. Keep in mind that all of these locations will vary throughout your game, but there's only 1 spot per 3. The next key we're going to go for is in the Orta Graveyard. The first location the key can be found is actually at the back of the T-Rex skull right here. The second location is very close to it as well, but it's going to be quite above you, and it's in the second T-Rex skull on the side of the jaw where the tooth is. This one's pretty easy to get as well. If it's not at either of those 2 locations, then the third and final one is going to be behind these Project Janus vehicles in this corner. Once you recall that key with the wonder weapon, bring it over to the cube. You're going to do this every time you pick up a key to nullify the disadvantage that it applies to you. The next key location is in the crashed rocket on that cliffside that I pointed at. The next location is on the broken tower right here. It's pretty tricky to spot, but the trickiest one is near the array tower, actually closer to the Cosmodrome, and it's right here on the radio tower itself. Pick up that key, and then you're going to go ahead and bring that one back to the cube as well. And that should be all 3 of your keys if you've done this part correctly. And again, keep in mind that especially this one at the grounded ship is the tricky one because it almost completely disables your movement speed. So you need to have Tessie nearby to drive you back to Ashwood. But place all 3 keys inside the cube and you should get a mid mid-game cutscene. I'm not going to let this play out, I'll let you watch it in-game, but the result of this cutscene should give you the Wonderwaff DG2 barrel, which is an important part of doing the last puzzles for the Easter egg. Now, there's essentially 4 puzzles we need to solve, and the clock tower in Ashwood and the use of the Wonderwaff DG2 is going to be vital in that. So go to the garage and then place the Wonderwaff on the truck itself, and then I'm going to show you a really good angle to place this at so that you can easily hit the clock tower whenever you jump into it. Just go just past this gate, and then you can swap seats to the barrel, and then go ahead and shoot the clock tower, and then once you've done that, shoot the clock with your wonder weapon and recall the needle, and it should make you purple if you've done this right. A few rules with this to note is that the clock tower is able to be reset every single round, so every time a round flips, you'll need to shoot it again with the Wonderwaff to be able to get this purple charge. But you're going to take this purple time charge over to the Cosmodrome first and foremost, and this is the only puzzle that actually requires 2 shots to be able to initiate. And it's worth noting that you can collect 3 different purple charges per round using different phases of the clock if you happen to mess one up, so just make sure to keep that in mind. But go ahead and take your second purple charge over to the Cosmodrome and then shoot the other satellite that is spinning very rapidly. When you've done this correctly, it should turn on these computers inside of this launch room. Now, you're going to see another code flash up on here, and it's only 2 letters at a time, but this is Pigpen Cipher once again. And as you can see, I've got you a little bit of a key so that you can translate this for yourself. Now, these are always a 6-letter word, and all of the ones that we found so far are stuff like engine, rocket, launch, weapon. In the game that I'm playing right now, I happen to have weapon, and so what you're going to do is use this little key that I've put up on screen, and this is going to help you translate your code into what the numbers are going to be. So my word is weapon, and I'm literally just entering that in according to this key, and you're going to do the same thing for your code. It's always going to be a 6-letter word, very simple, straightforward. You're just going to input it on the computers, and if you've done this part right and you enter in the last word correctly, the screen should flash white, the spirits will fly away, and then you should see the rocket begin to launch and then initiate its whole sequence. So that is 1 puzzle completed out of 4. The next one we're going to do is head towards the farm after you've grabbed another purple charge from the clock tower. Make sure you have that on you, and then take yourself over to the farm area, and you do have a limited time with these charges, so make sure to do this in a timely manner. You don't have to crazy rush it or anything, but just make sure that in a timely fashion you take yourself over to the main house on the farm, and you're going to see a clock above the TV, and it's going to read you a time. Now, there are scratch marks around the table that are basically the numbers of a clock, and you are going to stand on the number that the clock gives you. The one that I got in my game is 9, obviously, so I'm standing on the number 9 scratch mark on the floor, and if you're on the right one, the head should turn until it glows red, and then you can shoot that with your purple charge. Don't shoot it until the eyes start glowing, otherwise you'll fail this. But now we need to pick up 4 different parts around the map once you've done that correctly. The first one is very easy to pick up. It's the Tasty Face. It's located right next to Stamina Up on the bed. The second item we need is Paw's Pig sticker, which is inside the garage. And then the third item we need is actually back downstairs closer to the Wonder Weapon area, and this is going to be inside the bathtub. This is Ma's Chalice. And then the fourth and final item we need for this ritual is upstairs in the barn, and it's laying just next to this windowsill in the corner over here, and this is the play mask. So once you've got all 4 of these pieces, these items, you can place them on their respective ritual circles. You'll see them here on the ground in the farm now. There will be 4 of these red rings that you just go ahead and drop the items in. Once you place all 4 down, you interact with them, and it should initiate this lockdown sequence. In solo, I'm not going to lie, this is really tough, and I recommend bringing in Gobblegum for this, maybe a raindrops or even a timeout, because timeout prevents any of the regular zombies from spawning during that round, and that leaves you only to contend with the special zombies, which really aren't too bad. In co-op, this is okay because each player can be watching a certain artifact, but in solo, this is a lot to manage on your own, so I do recommend a timeout or do it while rounds are transitioning or something like that, but this one is a little bit tough, so if you don't get the first time, don't feel too bad. You can always run it back the next round after interacting with the artifacts, but if you've done that right, you should see these mists pop up, these little spirits, these ghosts, and you'll know you've completed the farm puzzle. The next puzzle is the 115 Diner. This one, you may notice that lightning strikes every other round, and what we're going to do is during a lightning strike round, grab a purple charge from the clock tower and then head over to this side of the map, and you can see that there is a clock right here on the rooftop. Once you hit it with the purple charge, you will see 3 lightning strikes come come in. Immediately summon Klaus and call it in on this mechanic that's sitting on the ground here. This will revive the mechanic, but do not kill him once he's back up. He'll be moving a lot faster than all of the other zombies, and all you need to do is walk him upstairs and then into this yellow lightning strike. Now, you only have a minute to do this, and there's 3 bodies we need to revive, but the nice thing is that it saves your progress. So if you only get 1 this go, don't worry about it. You know, you can do this and take as many rounds as you like. But if you have some spare time, you can melee the cash register to revive the waitress lady for next time you attempt this. If you come back around and restart the clock, we can get 2 in one go here by initiating it, starting it up, and then we're going to drive Tezzy into this red container to revive the truck driver body. This one's very easy as well. Once that door is open, you know, his soul will enter him, and then you can bring him up to the red lightning on top of the gas station. This one is also pretty easy. The hardest one is actually the diner. You need to go revive the waitress and then jump up to the rooftop and then bring her into the blue lightning located over here. You'll be moving quick, so don't worry about killing anything else because it makes it really messy if you start shooting zombies and you get like elemental pop and ammo types going and stuff. You just don't want to accidentally kill them because it could be a huge setback. And once again, remember that the lightning strikes only every other round, so just to make sure you're doing it on the correct round when the lightning is striking. But if you start getting dialogue, you'll know that you've completed this puzzle, and then we have 1 left to go. Okay, so for our 4th and final puzzle, we need to first initiate it by heading over to Blackwater Lake, going towards the docks, and then interacting with this blue mist that's coming out of the dock here. And once you've done that, you need to go get a purple charge from the clock tower, as we've done with each and every single one of these steps, and then head down inside of the cabin and shoot the projector, which should be scrolling by these, you know, slideshow, essentially these pictures. And what we need to do is collect 4 different film reels, and they're all related to a picture. So I'm going to show you the associated reel with the associated picture as well. The first one I had was the tool shed. This is the picture for the tool shed reel, and all you need to do is shoot it with your wonder weapon. If you've done it correctly, nothing should happen. It should just make a little noise. If you've done it wrong, you'll get a jump scare, so just watch out for that. The second one is the boathouse. This is the picture and the corresponding reel that I had. The third one is actually the back of the cabin, and this one's a little bit tricky to get to, but it's under a corner underneath these stairs. That's the associated picture for it. And then the final one that just shows the front of the cabin is actually inside the house, and it's this one right here on top of this shelf. Once you shoot all 4 in the correct order, you should get some dialogue, but more importantly, you can now head upstairs into the cabin, and if done right, you'll see that the box upstairs on the front of the bed should be coming out with a mist, and what we need to do is interact with that so that it opens, revealing this little statue or this, I don't know, I really don't know what it is, some kind of artifact. But once you open the box, head back to the docks and call in Klaus because he needs to inspect that. Call him in and summon him just in front of the box, and then he'll go ahead and pick that up and then initiate the final sequence. Now, I recommend at this point you set up before you go into the boss fight because you really don't have another opportunity right here. I would fully upgrade the wonder weapon for sure. I would get all of the gobblegum you could possibly get. I would also do the TED trials because if you have all of the perks, these will actually give you perma perks in case you die in the boss fight, and if you get revived, you'll keep those. So do TED trials, do all of that stuff before you go into this final sequence. But once yourself or you and your team are ready for the boss fight, interact with Ted and you should initiate the final encounter. Now, what you're going to do is grab Old Tezzy and then we're going to make a loop around the map, but only half of it. So we're going to start here in Blackwater Lake, and what we're looking for are these, again, these spirits, this mist, and you can see them denoted by this like, orange and white smoke coming from the ground. There's 3 locations in each area. So get 3 in the monoliths, and I'm just going to show you the route that I go straight forward here. We go around Janus Towers into the Collapse Tower, and you can see me picking up 3 mists per section. We're going to go straight past the farm into the area of the grounded ship and do the exact same thing. This is actually a lot easier once you get past the monolith forest. I always feel like that's the trickiest part because they can kind of be like sort of behind trees and stuff. They can be a little hard to find, but instead of going through Ashwood, we're going to go around into the Lost Cabins and do the exact same thing. But once you collect the 3rd one here, it will just literally kick you into the boss fight. I know, not exactly a smooth transition by any means, but we're in the boss now, and this is where you fight the big giant blob monster. However, I will say, again, if you're in solo, good luck. because this boss fight is still kicking my ass too. But we completed this co-op last night, and I'm slowly but surely learning how to solo this, but it's significantly more challenging because this is very based on using Tezzy, and in solo, you really don't have many other options other than to use the vehicle and not your weapons so much. But the basic idea here is that he's going to shoot these area of effect missiles that you need to avoid with Tezzy and try to maintain your health. The little packs on the ground, these, green blisters that you can run over that will repair the vehicle are still in here, but if you completely lose it, you will have to actually manually repair it, which you need to do tactically. You need to make sure you're covering yourself from zombies when you go for a heal or when you try to go for, a repair on the truck. But what you're going to do is basically use the ramp in the middle to ram into him, and that should take off a fair chunk of health. Now, once you get about 10 to 15% of his health down, he's going to go invulnerable and just start spinning around. You can go under him. He's not too dangerous if you're like right, underneath, but you're going to look for this beam of light to imbue the truck, and then you're going to head off the ramp and then hit him, and that should break his energy field, making him vulnerable. Now, I kind of fumbled here, but what you should do is actually use the fully upgraded Wonder Weapon to hit criticals. I figured out very shortly after I recorded this how effective the Wonder Weapon actually is there, so I would certainly advise that. Or you can use the Wonder Waff that's on top of the truck. But you want to get these vulnerable periods and deal as much damage as you can. Now, in the case that he does go invulnerable once more, you want to rinse and repeat and repair the truck. He can throw it at you, which is a little bit annoying, but this can be dodged by either hiding behind a pillar or one of these little trenches, which I'm also going to advise for phase 3, where he starts using his lasers. You can cancel his laser animation by running the truck into him, so it's pretty much just about having the truck up as much as possible and then keeping yourself alive. If you do happen to be on foot, a good tip I think for avoiding the missiles is literally just run in a straight line and then react to the radius that will appear in front of you. There's always kind of a way out, and I feel like on foot is maybe one of the safest places to be. At least you won't die usually, like you won't get insta-killed, but this fight's hard, and especially if you're playing by yourself, don't feel bad if it takes you a couple of attempts, because I'm really still trying to optimize this one too, and it is really difficult. But as you can see, you can get big damage by ramming the truck into criticals. You can hit the critical spot underneath him, and you want to run this all the way to the very end when he is fully dead. But he's certainly a real challenge. He's still giving me a hard time solo, so I just wanted to make this video to show you guys how to get up to the boss fight easily, consistently, and you guys can keep repeating this boss fight until you finally crack it. So anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe, leave a like on the video if this helped, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.